Call this special meeting of council to order for Thursday, November 28th, 2013. I'll ask council to adopt the agenda of the special council meeting as circulated. I do have one item which is in the correspondence package that I'll mention, and one other, but the correspondence item will be correspondence for action, and the additional item will be some discussion about a proposed strategic plan. So I'm looking for a motion to adopt the agenda circulated. Moved by Councillor Kenny, seconded by Councillor Ashley, that the agenda be adopted as circulated. Questions been called? Those in favor? Thank you. That motion is adopted. We'll move down to petitions and delegations. First of all, item A is an overview from Ms. Corinne Bombin, Chief Financial Officer, the Community Enhancement Grant process. And I see that there is a list of the organizations that have requested, and maybe you could just quickly go through them. I see there that there's 9 here.
Certainly, Your Worship. The AFNO Association of Francophones has requested $950 in-kind contributions. The BCSPCA Prince Rupert Branch, $25,000 for operating. The Gitmax Makaya Nishka Prince Rupert Port Edward Society, I apologize if I got that wrong, $10,000 in seed funding. National Aboriginal Day Planning Committee is asking for $5,000 in kind. Northern BC Museum Association is asking for $160,000 for their museum operations and $14,500 for the Quinitza operations. Northern BC Museum Association is asking for $70,000 in operating, and Prince Rupert Community Arts Council is asking for $10,000 in core support. Prince Rupert Community Halloween Fest Society, $6,000 in in-kind contributions. Prince Rupert Library is asking for $522,000 in operating. Prince Rupert Performing Arts Center Society is $110,000 in operating. Prince Rupert and Port Edward Economic Development Corporation, $90,000 in operating. Prince Rupert Special Events Society, $20,000 operating and $10,000 in kind contributions. The Prince Rupert Wildlife Shelter is asking for $6,000 in operating funding. Salmonberry Trading Company Society is asking for $2,000 in operating contributions. And Tourism Prince Rupert is asking for $65,000 in operating and $160,000 in hotel tax.
Thank you very much. That includes the 9 on the front and the 6 on the back. Next on the agenda is the opportunity for public comment on the community enhancement grants being considered. And I'll call if there's anybody who wishes to come forward and provide a comment on this year's requested community enhancement grants. I'll call a second time for anybody who wishes to come forward to provide comment. And I'll call a third and final time. We'll move on to... Yes, please, certainly do.
I'm just wondering, and I don't need it right now, but do we have a comparison as to how much these groups asked for last year?
We will have that when we have our discussions.
Awesome, thank you.
Certainly. We'll move on to correspondence for action. I'll refer council to the correspondence package, and we have a letter from the Prince Rupert Unemployment Center Society, and they run the Unemployment Action Center. And the gist of the correspondence is that they're asking for a letter of support for a community gaming grant for the Prince Rupert Unemployment Action Center Society. And the letter of support would be sent to the BC Gaming Corporation. And there's an example. First of all, there's the request there, and next to it is an example of the letter that was sent in 2012. So if council wishes to consider a letter of support for this group, a motion would be in order. Councillor Ashley.
I'll move that we write a letter of support.
Thank you. It's been moved by Councillor Ashley, seconded by Councillor Carlick Pearson, that the city send a letter of support for continuation of the Prince Rupert Unemployment Center Society, and this is for the Unemployment Action Center. It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Question's been called. Those in favor? Thank you. That motion is adopted. Next, the additional item this evening will be council needs to set a day to do a strategic planning session, and it's up to council to choose the most appropriate day when we can get as many people there as possible. Mr. Long, you got any further information on proposed dates?
Other than what we've talked about at council, the 17th is the only date that I can actually get a facilitator. It would be difficult, if not impossible, to get one with the kind of time frames we've got for any other date, and that was the only date that we could get until next spring from Gord, the facilitator that council used last time. So.
How does the council feel? Will the 17th work? Do we? It all depends on the facilitator, whether you're happy with the facilitator. I think he's provided good service in the past, but it's up to the majority.
It's a good date to me. The only concern I had is that I think one councillor may not be able to make it. That was the only concern that I had.
Well, we could check again with that councillor. Maybe changes could be made. I think a motion, then we all know, okay, this date has been set.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we make it for December 17th for the strategic planning session.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? Question has been called. Those in favor? Thank you. That motion is adopted. We'll move on. There's a bylaw here for council's consideration, and this is to the recommendation is to adopt the council procedure amendment bylaw, and it's bylaw number 3337, 2013. I'll ask council's consideration. This is to finally adopt the bylaw with the amendment. Councillor Ashley?
I'll move that we adopt the bylaw.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Carlick Pearson. And once again, this is an amendment to the procedure bylaw. That's council's procedure bylaw. That's the bylaw under which they operate, and the amendment allows for a change of dates for meetings. It would take effect in the subsequent year, so that would be 2014. Question's been called. Those in favor? Thank you. That motion is adopted. Next, we have a resolution. First of all, before I do that, Mr. Long, have you got anything else? No. All right. Thank you. Next, item 9 is a resolution to exclude the public. It comes with a recommendation that the meeting be closed to the public under Section 90 of the Community Charter to consider items related to one or more of the following. And this would be under Section 90.1 C, subsection C, to do with labor relations and other employee relations. I'll ask council's consideration of that recommendation. Moved by Councillor Carlick Pearson, seconded by Councillor Kinney. Discussion? Question's been called. Those in favor? Thank you. That motion is adopted. This terminates the regular meeting of council. We'll now move in camera.